Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Michael Herman. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Harold Dawson Grimes. Harold Grimes was born on the 15th of April 1915 in Balasore in eastern India, the son of Reverend Alfred Grimes and his wife Mary. The Reverend Grimes was at the time part of the Baptist Missionary Society, but later retired to Brisbane, where he was heavily involved in religious education. The Grimes family settled in the suburb of Taringa. Harold attended Brisbane Boys College and Gatton College before going on to work as a plants inspector for the Department of Agriculture. Stationed at Nambour, he was responsible for inspecting plants and stocks for disease. Harold Grimes also became secretary of the Nambour Golf Club and was known to be a keen exponent of the game. On the 5th of July 1940, Grimes enrolled in the Royal Australian Air Force Reserve at a recruiting centre in Brisbane, the first step towards enlisting with the RAAF itself. This he did around 2 months later, on the 13th of September 1940. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Grimes was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who throughout the course of the war would join Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. After initial training at Bradfield Park in Sydney, on the 28th of December, Grimes embarked for overseas service. Arriving in Canada in January, he attended Air Observer School in Edmonton, earning his Air Observer's badge in May. In July, he left for Canada, bound for England. In August, he joined 11 Operational Training Unit based at RAF Bassingbourn in Cambridgeshire, where he trained to become a member of a night bomber crew. In late September 1941, Grimes began to put his training into practice when he was transferred to 75 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. Known as the New Zealand Squadron, 75 Squadron had its origins in 1938 when the New Zealand government ordered 30 Vickers Wellington bombers. In early 1939, air and ground crews arrived in England to train on the new aircraft, and the unit became known as the New Zealand Flight. When war was declared in September 1939, however, the New Zealand government put the bombers at the disposal of the Royal Air Force, requesting that a squadron be formed from the unit. As training continued, New Zealanders serving in the Royal Air Force volunteered to serve with the unit. Early operations involved leaflet dropping over Germany, searching the North Atlantic, and attacking targets in Norway during the German invasion. With the fall of France, Bomber Command took the fight to the enemy. Coastal targets in France were attacked, and then industrial targets in Germany became a focus. 75 Squadron was engaged constantly against Germany from 1940 until VE Day. The squadron flew more sorties than any other Allied heavy bombing squadron, suffered the second highest casualties of all Allied squadrons, and dropped the second largest weight of bombs of any Allied squadron. 32 Australian airmen lost their lives flying with 75 Squadron, one of whom was Harold Grimes. On the 15th of October 1941, Grimes was the air observer in a Wellington bomber that failed to return from an operation. Less than a week later, he and the other crew members were presumed dead. Harold Grimes was 26 years old. Today, his remains lie in Reichswald Forest War Cemetery in the German town of Kleve, along with over 7,000 casualties from the Second World War. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Harold Dawson Grimes, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post-ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.